Hola everybody. Today's video is about multiplying and dividing complex numbers. Uh, Before we talked about what complex numbers are and we add and subtract them, just remember that a complex number, an example would look like this. It's a real number plus an imaginary number. Imaginary numbers, remember, are I. So I is an imaginary number used to get rid of square root of -1. So I is the same thing as the square root of -1. So we'll just write that down here, what it looks like. I just want to do a little bit of practice, just what powers of I look like and what they do. So I is just the square root of -1. I squared then will be the square root of -1 squared. And what that means is these just cancel out. So I squared is just -1. I to the third is the square root of -1 to the third, but two of those cancel out on there, so we'll have a negative square root of -1 or negative square root of, or negative I. Oh, dang it. So I to the third is really just negative I. I to the fourth, here, I'll circle these in blue. So we're just doing some simplifying here. I is the square root of 1. I squared is -1. I to the third is negative I. And I to the fourth is like square root of -1 squared times square root of -1 squared, which these are both -1. So we end up getting 1. I won't worry about these too much. We'll talk about these more once we kind of cross that bridge. But just a little review of I squared -1, I squared is -1, I to the third is negative I, and I to the fourth is 1. Okay, so here's the real meat of the matter. We're going to be multiplying some complex numbers. To multiply these, we want to FOIL. Remember, FOIL is first, outer, inner, and last. So this first one actually is not two things, so all we have to do on this one actually is just distribute that. So 3i times 4 is 12i. Three I times 2i is 6i squared. But we know from our previous page that this is really -1, so our final answer will be -6 plus 12i. So we're changing out that I squared for that -1. That's what's nice about knowing what we did on that previous page, is it lets us simplify even further. Next one, this one has two things, so we want to both of them, so we got to do FOIL first, outer, inner, and last. So this, remember, turns into a -1, so really when we combine like terms, this is really a -2 here, and that's 8, and then 4i and 4i. So 8 minus 2 is 6, 4i plus 4i is 8i. So that's what's cool about these I squareds and stuff, is they actually kind of cancel each other out as we go here. So here's our last one. Lots of ways to do this. Whichever way kind of makes you happiest. You can distribute first here, or we can FOIL first. Doesn't really matter which one we do. I'll just distribute first, I guess, and then we'll figure out from there. So we'll just do this side first, and then we'll FOIL out the rest after that. So we'll get -2i minus 2i squared. But remember, this is -1, so really what we get is 2 minus 2i. And then over here we just have the same thing still. Now we distribute. Two times 2 is 4. 6i, negative 4i, and negative 6i squared. Remember, this is negative 1, so that's really a positive 6 here. So 4 plus 6 is 10. Subtract those, and that's our final answer. So that's multiplying. It's really just foiling and then changing out that I squared. I don't know why I scroll up that high. It's really just foiling and then changing out that I squared for a negative 1. That's the only really new, sort of thing we're doing with these, is simplifying them into complex numbers. Now the last thing we're going to do is divide complex numbers, and here we need to use this thing called the conjugate. Remember, the conjugate is the same thing but opposite. So with i's, it's going to be whatever that front number is, it's all the same, it's just as a plus or a minus in the middle. So the conjugate of this bottom is going to be 3 plus 2i. Whatever we do to the bottom, we got to do to the top. So we multiply that out, and we get 15 plus 10i over. Foil out the bottom, that's why it's nice. It's good to know how to foil. 9 minus 6i plus 6i minus 4i squared. And this is why the conjugate's so awesome, is because this middle cancels out, and then the I squared turns into a negative 1, so really this is 9 plus 4. So our final answer will look like this. So that's cool. I mean, the whole bottom went away. I mean, this is very similar to the root stuff we did before, where we didn't like square roots on the bottom. So that's kind of sweet. So our next one looks like this. So again, we want to think about the conjugate here. The conjugate of the bottom is 3 minus 4i, because it was a plus, so we put a minus, otherwise it's the same thing. Whatever we do to the bottom, we got to do to the top. So we can FOIL out the top. 6 minus 8i, negative 3i, plus 4i squared. I can FOIL out the bottom. So we notice that these go away in the middle. We know that this turns into a negative 1. So our top's going to be 6 minus 4 because of those. So that's 2. And then negative 11i. The bottom, the middles cancel out. This I squared makes this a plus 16. 9 plus 16 is 25. And that's our answer. Nice little complex number there, all combined. The last one, whoa, no, a square root. Whoops. That's okay. We can handle it. It's the same thing. Conjugate. Whatever we do to the bottom, we gotta do to the top. The top's gonna be ugly. Square root of 2 minus I.
You can.
2 square root of 2i. And a negative 2i squared. On the bottom, by here, these just go away. So they all cancel. The top, the only thing that really can change is that this turns into a negative 1, so that's a plus 2. So the top is still going to be really ugly. But the bottom is going to turn into something kind of cool. which is just 3. So that's an ugly one. But the bottom turned out really cool, which is nice. So, there's a video on multiplying and dividing. The next one that we're going to do is on absolute values and graphing. Graphing complex numbers. So check for that tomorrow, and we'll see you in class.